Hello, everybody, and welcome back to welcome back. This is now the second stream for today. A little bit of overload. Apologies, but this is going to be our, like I said a couple weeks ago, weekly Saturday evening news updates. Now, there was a whole bunch that went on this week, but it all seems to have gone on January 2nd. So, between January 1st and 2nd, this week started off real rough, or this year. Funny thing was the day that bomb went off in the lobby area or the valet area of the Trump Hotel, I had just left there less than a day before. So that was a little awakening, I guess. But you can see here, I got a picture of the lobby Christmas tree. And you can see here, me, lobby Christmas tree. That was taken the morning of December 31st when I was flying back out of town, or I guess back home from Vegas. I was in Vegas for a mastermind event, business and investing group that I'm in. We were in Las Vegas, as we are every quarter, spending some time with each other, networking, also spending some time hearing from some wonderful guest speakers. Got to hear Gilbert Burns, got to hear Claudia Gadea, got to hear Bilal Muhammad, got to hear a couple other wonderful speakers, including Reed Harris, Zoltan Bathory, and I know I'm missing at least one, but it was a really good time. And I capped it off with having a nice breakfast there in the hotel lobby and then leaving. So, Valentina Shevchenko was another one. Just looking through my phone, some notes. But yeah, so I was in that lobby less than 24 hours from when that Cybertruck blew up. So thankfully, they missed. Thankfully, they only injured one person. That lobby area and the valet area there at the Trump International in Las Vegas can get very, very busy. So it feels, and this is a speculation, but it feels like that was more of a message and less an actual attempt to do real harm, because it could have come back at any time. Certain parts of the day, it's extremely busy there, extremely busy. So we were very fortunate that no one else outside was hurt worse or killed. It is unfortunate, maybe, depending on what comes out about the person driving, but the only person that lost their life in that was the driver. But the attack at the Trump Hotel was not the only thing that happened on the 2nd or the 1st, I guess. So you had the attack in New Orleans, or NOLA for whatever reason they call it. But New Orleans, they had someone drive, run over a bunch of people, and start shooting. That was a tragic loss of life. The person that committed that also lost their life. But the year started off real rough, and then the 2nd happens. Well, what happened on the 2nd? Lots of weird things. But you can see here, actually, let me just pull up this one. So you can see here that from Nick Sortor, we've got that there was a man arrested after he planted an IED on a train car in Idaho. Hey, Dr. Gold, how's it going? I'm doing well. How are you? So the year started off with 2 attacks. Then we have a man planting an IED on a train car in Idaho. So you can see here that on January 1st in the evening, so this was actually also on the 1st, that a suspicious subject was observed near a parked rail car attempting to light something on fire. So not only was there an IED, they were trying to light it on fire. So officers observed footprints in the snow, tracked them to a train car, located the suspect's undetonated IED. So we have car attack, New Orleans, vehicle-borne IED attack in Las Vegas. We have a third person planting an IED on a rail car in Idaho. Starts real crazy. But then what else do we get? You can see here that police shut down I-85 in Greenville County, South Carolina, due to a bomb threat involving an 18-wheeler. Now, see if they have that seems to be a misstatement. Doing good, it's been busy at work. That could be a good thing or a bad thing, but a lot of times at work, it's good to be busy. Helps time go by quickly. So hopefully it continues to go by quickly for you and that you find your work satisfying. But, there we go. Okay, so it is an 18-wheeler. At first, in this shot, I was like, that is not an 18-wheeler. But you can see here, so there was a bomb threat on I-85. January 2nd, 5:15 p.m. Again, what is happening? Why is the year starting off so crazy? And then to cap it all off, the FBI is like, hey, let's distract you from all of that because that wasn't enough. And we're going to release new footage almost 4 years later from the January 6th pipe bomber. So now we're releasing updates on something from 4 years ago, which kind of feels like a distraction, because if we could find out as much as we have about the Cybertruck driver and the Cybertruck in a few days, I don't see how the entire FBI couldn't figure out more about this person in 4 years. So, like I said here, garbage frame rate. Looks like he maybe switched something or added something to the bag he was carrying when he slides over. So you can see he is sitting there on the park bench, gets up. But it just kind of seems like a distraction to me. So that is crazy. So you can see here, let's pull it up a little closer. So in this video, it says at the top, where it looks like it's cut off a bit, it says, for those of you trying to say the Cybertruck explosion at the Trump Tower was due to it being an EV or a thermal runaway, here's a comparison video. So here it says battery fires spread slowly from the bottom, and the one at the top is not doing that. So you can see in the bottom video, you have a fire spreading from the bottom where the battery is. They look very different. And like I said, that picture that I showed you guys earlier, where I was standing at the tree is inside the lobby through these doors. So I was there less than a day before this Cybertruck exploded. Oh, you are not kidding, Dr. Gold. It has been an absolutely out-of-pocket, ridiculous, insane start to the year. It is the 4th day, and we've had more attacks, or almost attacks, in as many days. We have New Orleans. We have the Trump Hotel. We had the I-85 bomb threat. We have the Idaho rail car. And I feel like I'm still missing a few. But part of it here is there was a video that apparently, and we'll watch it together, shows the alleged driver of the vehicle-borne IED at the Trump Hotel and his girlfriend, who is apparently not a fan. Yeah, don't embarrass us. Okay. Well, apparently there's a little clip of them together, but it says at the top that her account on Facebook, which I don't have, so you can follow that yourself. But apparently she's saying, or it's saying there that she has a hatred for Donald Trump. Now, I've seen reports both ways about him, whether he supports Donald Trump or not. But I don't really think it matters. You can see here the top comment to clarify she's allegedly his ex-wife. And as far as they know, she's not accused of anything. It's the only video of the suspect, and it was posted to her public account on Facebook in 2016. Okay, so this is a fairly old video. Here we have a little news conference. But the crazy thing is, now, I don't know about you, but that seems awfully strange. There's a lot of things around this that seem very strange. Now, these are all speculations. We don't have concrete answers yet. And the way that law enforcement's been working, at least lately, is that I don't know if we're ever going to get real answers. We're going to get answers, but it's probably going to feel like a lie, like most of the answers that we've gotten from law enforcement in the last 4 years. A little earlier, we were showing that update from the pipe bombers from January 6th, the alleged pipe bombers, because they never found anyone, just the devices from January 6th, which, again, I find extremely suspicious. I'm going to see if I can find. Yeah, so this was a meme going around for a while about the similarities in the devices that were found on January 6th and allegedly examples of training devices that the Bureau uses. Guys, I don't know if we're ever going to get real answers from law enforcement, but right here you can see they're saying that the driver of this vehicle-borne IED drove all the way to Vegas. On the way, had purchased 2 fairly expensive firearms because a Desert Eagle 50 caliber pistol is not cheap. And that they said, oh, you know what? We are going to, I'm going to buy 2 expensive. That was silly. I'm going to buy 2 very expensive pistols. I'm going to take a very expensive vehicle, which was a rented from the same app that the New Orleans driver got their car. I'm going to take 2 very expensive brand new firearms with me that I'm not going to have an opportunity to use. And I'm going to park in front of the Trump Hotel in a Tesla Cybertruck full of fireworks, camp fuel, and racing fuel. And I'm going to then pew myself in the face and detonate said VBIED. Now, does this seem likely to anybody? Like, to me, it just seems not very plausible. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Because to me, it just seems suspicious. This person was active duty. This person was a team man, I believe, if the reports are correct. So you have a special forces person in a very poorly constructed VBIED parked in a very politically sensitive location in a vehicle created by the company run by another politically sensitive person right now and detonated. But this person was pew-pewed in the face to make them unrecognizable. And then the vehicle burned so intensely that the body was difficult to identify. And yet we're supposed to believe that this survived. Look, I don't think a CAC card is going to survive a inferno like that. Now, maybe it was in his wallet, under his person. There's a lot of reasons that it might have, but it just seems unlikely. So you have a E8 Teams guy who, for all reports, seemed to be okay leading up to this. And then we have a guy whose face is unrecognizable, burnt to a crisp, but his ID survives. Of all of the things that have happened so far this year, this one I have a hard time believing as well. They're gold. I have a very hard time just taking it at face value. So, of all of the attacks and events that have happened so far, this one seems just very... Got to turn that off. Hold on. Let me fix that. There. Now that shouldn't happen again. It seems very unlikely. So, there's not really much to the year yet. And I was out of town for the first half of the week, as discussed earlier. I was in Las Vegas, in the Trump Hotel, for 4 days, from December 27th through December 31st. So, I'm fairly glad that I was not there when this happened. It also seems kind of crazy that the Cybertruck contained this poorly constructed vehicle-based IED so well that the blast was directed pretty much straight up. And because it was directed straight up, there really wasn't any damage to the front of the building. It looks like the glass was all still intact. So there's just so many things. Speaker Johnson, right? We had the vote for speaker. That was another thing that happened this week. So what happened with that? Well, Thomas Massie kept voting against him. So good job sticking with your values there, Thomas. But Trump called on the other Republicans that voted no to change their vote. So for some strange reason, Trump continues to back Speaker Johnson. Now, Speaker Johnson should now know that he is in his speakership still solely because Trump wanted him to be. I hope that he gets with the program and stops voting along with the Democrats and putting America's future at risk. So hopefully he got that message. But Thomas Massie was the standout. He said no. He stood on his values. He's representing his constituents. All over X yesterday, I saw plenty of examples of people trying to call out Thomas Massie and saying that he was being a rhino of all things, that he was not representing his constituents. But I think I would argue that the people that changed their vote just because Trump called and asked them to are representing their constituents less than Thomas Massie was. I am no fan of Speaker Johnson, not even a little bit. So, all in all, I really, really, really hope that he gets with the program. But one of all these things that have been crazy so far this year, I think aside from Biden, I mean, Biden has just been trash on his way out. He's trashing the country at every opportunity he can by, it's not pardoning. He is commuting sentences for all kinds of horrendous people. He is commuting sentences and death sentences for most of the people on federal death row, which includes tons of murderers, child rapists, all kinds of just awful people. His pardon list is getting longer. His commuting list is getting longer. He just handed presidential medals of freedom to a whole bunch of people. Now, what part of this is recognized or is, I guess, shocking? The thing I did not have in my bingo card for the already outrageously crazy beginning of the year was Biden giving George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Now, look, Hillary Clinton, also terrible pick for this award. If I was a recipient of this award prior to these, I would be very upset. That award is supposed to be one of the top civilian honors possible. It is supposed to mean a great deal. So when you hand one of them to somebody like Hillary Clinton or George Soros, to me, it taints this award and the meaning behind it. And as the top comment says, when I saw the headline, I thought it was a parody, and yet it wasn't. Fitting per a president who did his level best to destroy this country. New York Post headline here, Biden to present Hillary Clinton, George Soros, and 17 others with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Biden gives Satan. So this is obviously a satire. But guys, what is happening with all of this? Like, how did we get here? How did we get here in 2025? Like, how did we get Hillary Clinton and George Soros the Presidential Medal of Freedom? Guys, it is January 4th. And we are all over the map already. And if that's all terrible and that's all crazy, but on a side note, maybe a little lighter note, we have an update on environmentalism, because the environment is important. And let's get this pulled up. I'll pull it up on this angle. It's easier to read. But you can see here, Michigan's going to cut down 400 acres of forests to build a solar farm. The DNR, which is usually the Department of Natural Resources, I believe, in this state, says that it's to make up for decreasing revenue from hunting and fishing licenses and to work towards a 100% clean energy goal. But why isn't the goal to reduce greenhouse gases? Well, it's because the forests do that, but we're going to cut down the forest to make room for green energy. So we're going to cut down a square mile of forest, because that's essentially what 400 acres is. It's plus or minus a bit, but essentially 1 square mile of forest to make room for a green energy project. Like, whoop. So you can see Michigan is behind building enough renewable energy fast enough to risk not meeting a key state climate goal. What the heck guys. Like, how does this make sense? Why are we destroying forests to make room for green energy? Well, I think we know the answer to that. It's because green energy is not green energy at all. Like, sure, solar might be cleaner, at least on the surface, than coal, oil, natural gas. But what goes into making all of those solar panels? The process for manufacturing solar panels involves a lot of hazardous materials, a lot of glass, silica, silicon, a lot of oxides, a lot of copper. Like, it is not a green process. And for the most part, at least up until recently, I believe it's still this case, but most of these green energy generation ideas, like solar panels, wind turbines, whatever, it takes a ton of energy to make them. It takes a lot of hazardous materials to make them. The amount of concrete that goes into things like wind turbines, like these are not green processes. These are feel-good projects. And in large scale like this, they are just government subsidized projects that are used to launder money to the friends of politicians that run solar companies or wind turbine companies. These companies make a ton of money selling carbon credits or other types of offsets. Meanwhile, wind turbines kill thousands and thousands of birds. They sound awful. The amount of concrete that needs to go in the ground to secure the foundation of a very large wind turbine is extreme. And one of the most carbon dioxide intensive processes in the United States is the creation of concrete. So we're building huge facilities with government subsidies for green energy projects for things that have almost no net benefit. And we're cutting down square miles of forest to build them. Guys, please make it make sense. I beg you, make it make sense. I worked in grid control for over a year. Sorry, just under a year. I worked in energy generation for almost 9 years. I worked in commercial nuclear power at 2 different facilities where we generated hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of megawatts of power with a very high percentage of uptime, or capacity factor, if you will, on a very small footprint, which is really what we need. We need tons of energy, especially with the AI revolution, especially with data centers and general computing going way up. Very power hungry facilities, tens of megawatts apiece. Dozens of these things are going up in multiple municipalities around the United States. So we're talking about thousands and thousands of megawatts of base load. And how are we going to power it if we don't build nuclear? Because right now, base load is mostly supported by coal and natural gas. So if people actually cared about the creation of carbon dioxide, and you need to support grid with base load, because baseload generation is required for grid stability, you need nuclear. You need lots of nuclear. And that's one of the things that I'm excited about, is that small modular reactors are starting to gain some, at least public attention, hopefully traction. NuScale Energy has an approved design that is at least preliminarily approved by the NRC. We have like TerraPower and some other small modular reactor companies that have designs that are either in process or at least have ideas. We have lots of great advanced reactor designs, but none of them have come to fruition because of bureaucracy and red tape. So the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is standing in the way. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission stood in the way of restarting the first power plant I worked at, and it shut down. And the California coast lost almost 2,300 megawatts of baseload generation because they refused to give the keys back to restart San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station. There were issues, I'll just say, but those were fixable with the right engineering and the right know-how. But the NRC was just not interested. We haven't really started all but, 2 or 3 reactors in the last decade or so. They finished, was it Browns Ferry, one of the units there they finished that had been mothballed? And then Vogel, I believe it is. It's either VC Summer or Vogel power station. I believe Unit 3 and 4. I believe went online. Those were AP1000s. Yes. First newly constructed nuclear units built in more than 3 decades. Went online in 2022, 2023. So other than Vogel, Unit 3 and 4, and one of the Browns Ferry units, we have not built a nuclear power plant in decades in the United States. So, sure, we're putting a lot of wind and solar on the grid, but for base load, for things like data centers, natural gas has been doing that. We need to build more nuclear. Everyone argues nuclear is dangerous. Well, they were about to have a renaissance, and then Fukushima happened. Fukushima was an old General Electric boiling water reactor that had some site-specific licensing requirements that were fairly lax. And the regulator had an incestuous relationship with the power company and did not keep them safe. So if you're going to have an ineffective regulator and an old design, you may have a problem. And they did. And it killed the nuclear renaissance globally. Germany vowed to shut theirs down and did, which ramped up coal use and natural gas use in Germany. France started scaling back its reactor programs. The United States did not finish building VC Summer, nuclear power plant that was an AP1000 design as well. So Fukushima really kind of put a halt to that. But now with these small modular designs, there's discussions that Microsoft, Amazon, and some of the other large hyperscalers are in discussions with some of these companies to try and have long-term purchasing agreements. One of the 3 Mile Island units is potentially going to restart with a long-term purchasing agreement from a data center company. Seems like the right way to go. Not solar, not wind. Because the footprint for a utility size, which is about 800 to 1,000 megawatts electric or larger output, nuclear power plant is significantly smaller than it is for a equivalent output solar farm or wind farm. So, hey, I'm a big nuclear fan. Probably because I worked in it for 9 years. I worked at a General Electric boiling water reactor. Now, it was in Nebraska. It was a very similar design to Fukushima, but had very specific site differences that would have made what happened at Fukushima basically impossible. So whenever people asked if I was afraid to go to work, my answer was no. And that was almost right after Fukushima happened. No, I wasn't afraid to go to work because I knew enough about the job that I wasn't afraid, nor should anyone be. The things that happened in the nuclear industry before 3 Mile Island, before Chernobyl, before Fukushima, like those things aren't going to happen here. And the new designs that we skipped over in the newer generations of reactors are passively safe. So that means they require zero operator input to shut down and stay cooled down and not melt. So I'm going to ask Copilot right now, what is the acreage required for a 1,000 megawatt output nuclear plant versus acreage required for a 1,000 megawatt output solar farm? Let's see if it gives me a decent answer. Nuclear plant, typically 1.3 square miles, 840 acres. Fantastic. So if you had to pick, would you want to build one unit on 840 acres of land or a solar farm that was up to 10,000 acres in size? What do you guys think? What do you think is the best use of our resources and the most reliable? Because the next question we can ask is, what is the average capacity factor for a nuclear plant in the United States versus a solar farm? Nuclear power plant capacity factor 93%. Capacity factor for a solar farm 25%. Guys, this green energy stuff is not the answer. Even if you add storage, what kind of storage for power are you going to need to maintain the 1,000 megawatts of output overnight? Let's see if the Copilot can do this. So to maintain the power output of a 1,000 megawatt solar farm overnight, you would need a substantial battery storage system, you think? Assuming a solar farm operates at a capacity factor of 25%, it would generate 2,400 megawatt hours of energy per day. To cover 10 hours of nighttime, you would need a battery capacity of approximately 24,000 megawatt hours. This is a rough estimate, and the actual size could vary based on factors like efficiency of the batteries, depth of discharge, and other losses. Let's see if it can give me a cost approximation. How expensive to construct this sized battery system? See if it can estimate. It's probably going to be a lot, but so you see your cost of constructing a 24,000 megawatt hour battery storage system can vary based on several factors. The cost of a utility scale lithium ion battery storage system is between $150 and $403 per kilowatt hour. So these figures, it would cost for a 24,000 megawatt hour system would range from $3.8 billion to $9.7 billion to maintain the output consistent overnight. And that would be just for the service life of the batteries. Service life for a utility scale lithium ion, 10 to 15 years. So every 10 to 15 years, you'd be spending $4 to $10 billion just to have the battery, not to mention the solar farm, just to have the battery every 10 to 15 years. So you'd be spending $300 million a year of replacement cost for that battery? Or how much would it cost us to build the nuclear power plant? 14 to 30, perfect. What did you say, 30? Guys, takes up less space, has a more consistent output. All the cost is up front. Cost of, and that's based on Vogel, which was way over because it would have been 30 years since we built one. Guys, if we want to have data centers to do things conveniently in the cloud and do all the things that we've gotten used to doing to support that and maintain a reliable electric system, you're on your second break. Love from Indiana. Oh, thank you, doctor. Appreciate it. Yeah, guys, why would we not spend the $15 billion to 30? I'll use the high end again. So, or we'll use all the low end numbers. $15 billion to build a power plant. Or we would build a $4 billion battery bank every 10 years. So the normal lifespan of a nuclear plant is 40 years. They've all had license extensions, so they all go to 60. So in 60 years, you have $14 billion of cost, plus the cost of fuel and guys, nuclear is the answer. Nuclear is absolutely the way, Dr. Gold. Takes up way less space, is way more reliable, can survive bad weather. Like, I've worked at these power plants, guys. Awful weather outside, super low temperatures, snow, ice, whatever. Still working, still good, still running. And then you see what happens to some of these solar panel fields after tornadoes, after hurricanes, after all kinds of things. Guys, the amount of destruction that can happen to one of these large solar fields. Like, look at this. You can look up pictures. This doesn't work anymore. Like, you'd have to completely rebuild this thing from scratch. Maybe the conductors buried in the ground still work. Maybe. If all of the things failing didn't screw them up. We need nuclear, guys. Absolutely. These green energy projects, they kind of feel like a con job. They really do. So Michigan cutting down 400 acres of woods for a green energy project is crap. It's just crap. So the start to this year, guys, has been terrible. Thankfully, I'm safe. I was not at the hotel. I was there the day before. Unfortunately, and thoughts and prayers out to the families of those affected in New Orleans. It's terrible what happened there. It's terrible what we're seeing in some of the cities here in the U.S. It's terrible what we're seeing in some of the major cities overseas in the United Kingdom, in Ireland, in just so many places now. I don't recognize the West. It does not seem to be the same place that I fought for, that my father fought for, that my grandfather fought for. It's the Green New scam. Yes. The Green New Deal is crap. It's a complete scam. It is in my opinion, it is a money laundering scheme to enrich the friends of politicians. Because who is going to clean up the wind turbines when they break? Another fun fact, not only do wind turbines kill tons of birds, some of them very rare and endangered. But they say, oh, look, it's green. It's low carbon. Do you know how much oil is in the gearbox of a typical wind turbine? Anyone want to venture a guess? Per wind turbine? How much oil is in it? Don't worry about the amount of concrete in the foundation. Don't worry about the fancy composites that do not break down naturally over time that the whole structure is built out of. How much do you guys think is in each wind turbine in a field? Any guesses? Between 50 to 80 gallons of oil in the gearbox. So gearbox on a wind turbine this size, which I asked for 3 megawatt, which they make bigger, is 80 gallons. So for a 3 megawatt turbine, how many are needed for a 1,000 megawatt output? Well, that's 334 turbines. So how much oil is that? Well, and your there we go. In your 1,000 megawatt wind turbine field that is so green, you have between 18 and 26,000 gallons of oil. Praying for the families of the people that died and the people. Yes, absolutely. So gearboxes every 2 to 5 years. So it's very green. Every 2 to 5 years, guys. Like 20, 25,000 gallons of oil. Good job. Oh, and yes, thank you, Dr. Glad I'm safe as well. Yes, I was in the lobby of the Trump International Hotel in Las Vegas on December 31st. I left there. Let's see. Do I have the timestamp for that? What time? Because I sent a picture. I sent that picture of the lobby to my parents as I was leaving. So what time? Sorry, just give me a second. What time did I leave? Is that tree still there? So that was Tuesday. Is that right? So that was, I sent them at 12 p.m. So I was probably, it was probably 10 o'clock in the morning, local time, or 12 here. So it was 9 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, 23 hours. So I was in the lobby 23 hours before that. It's crazy to think about when you leave an area, but even crazier, something else that we really still don't have answers about was the shooting in Vegas that happened during the Country concert. My brother was in the crowd for that. And we still don't have answers, guys. And people still trust law enforcement. At least federal law enforcement. The same people who conducted Waco. Guys, Kash Patel can't get there soon enough. We need to get Kash Patel confirmed. We need to get him into the FBI. We need to get all of this rot out of federal law enforcement. The people making these decisions to shelve or hide this information from the American people should be held accountable. We deserve answers. My brother is still haunted by that night. It weirds me out thinking that I was in a location less than a day before a bomb went off. Like, that's crazy. And this year is just getting started, folks. It's just getting started. So I hope all of y'all will join me in praying for and hoping for a much better rest of 2025. It started off real crazy. Let's pray and hope for change, I guess. Throwing us back to Barry. But guys, something has to shift. Something has to change. This feels like these death throes to the bureaucracy. They're fighting tooth and nail. We're seeing, I think, the response to the election. I think they're trying to distract us. We had the drones that just disappeared from the news, like gone. Whatever happened to them? Are we ever going to get answers on that? Was it actually just a government contract and they were doing drone testing? Or is it something else? We don't know. The pipe bombs that were found on January 6th, 2021. What happened there? We don't know. What actually happened in New Orleans on the 1st? We don't know yet. But they're letting media tour the home, which I thought was crazy. Right? Like we didn't show that, but I can pull up that story real quick. Is that here, Nick Sotor, tour of the New Orleans attackers' home. So the New York Post reporter says she found a bomb-making station, a Quran open to a chilling passage about martyrdom. Something seems off. It just happened yesterday. How is this being allowed? So like they let a reporter into this place. Like supposedly the feds had been there and the feds left. They took all the evidence, everything they needed. And yet she gets in there and is able to find and see all of this. Dr. Gold, I feel like the younger generation is waking up, and I'm 21 right now. I am 20 years older than you, and I hope people are starting to wake up. I think that X being a platform where we can talk about more things is helping. I think that Trump being elected is making the other social media companies more accepting of open discourse. And with everybody being able to stream, with the power of this, now, the fact that at any moment, somebody is probably recording almost everything, it's getting harder for people to hide things, for the government to lie, for anybody to lie. Because it used to be, back when I was younger, you had the local paper and the local news on TV, and people respected them. And most of us assumed that the information that they were putting out was correct. Nowadays, I don't think you can make that assumption because we were gaslit so bad over the years, whether it was the misinformation about COVID, whether it was misinformation. And I'm not saying one side or the other. I'm not passing judgment or saying which side is correct or not correct. I'm just saying that we were gaslit in general about COVID. We were gaslit as far back as many, like Bay of Pigs. Like so many decades, the war on drugs has just been a joke. It's funny because, okay, so Dr. Gold, let's see. It's funny because I never had social media until 2 years ago with X. You were probably better off. So I haven't had a Facebook in maybe 15 years. And I did that on purpose. I saw the effect that social media was starting to have on people in my generation. I saw that it was driving people to be self-centered and selfish. I saw that it was making everybody think that they were a celebrity of some sort. People early on, trying to think whether it was Instagram or like where I saw it first, but like people were posting pictures of what they had for breakfast. People were posting like, hey, I'm going to the store. Hey, I'm going to the gym. Like they're just posting everything they're doing, whether it was on Twitter, on Instagram, or wherever. And just that whole idea of I'm so important that I'm going to tell everybody everything I do every step of the way, every day. It just seemed weird to me. Do I do it now some? Yes. But I do it from a brand perspective. I do it to promote my YouTube channel. I don't do it to promote myself, because I still think that's kind of weird. So I think you're better off there, Doc. But it just seems crazy to me. And we'll watch the rest of this clip. But like less than 24 hours after this person, they're in here? Well, hang on. What was on that list? So let's see. We have a white filter paper with powder, white filter paper with powder, small sample of white filter paper with powder, box of screws, bottles of sulfuric acid, acetone, sample of acetone, white substance inside bag labeled potassium nitrate, sample of white substance inside bag labeled potassium nitrate, small pistol primer box, burner with white residue, thermometer, stir stick, lab stand, blue crimping tool, white powder on tools, and electrical components. Sounds like they had a small chemistry set and a lab setup. And I can't read that. Sorry. Like, I get it. Like I said, we were gaslit so bad and we've been lied to for so long now that it makes it difficult to trust anything that I was taught. Like, the more you open your eyes and realize that we've been gaslit and lied to by the government for so long, it makes you really wonder if anything that we were taught growing up was true. Now, we all know the old trope that history books are written by the victors. Well, since the revolution, that's been us, with the exception of, I don't know, maybe Vietnam, Afghanistan. I mean, that was a retreat. That wasn't really a victory. But the things that are documented and written about these events that have happened, the world wars, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq 1, Iraq 2, Afghanistan, like the conflict between Iran and Iraq, the conflict between the Soviet Union and Afghanistan and the Mujahideen, like how much of what was written is actually true? It's hard to know. But when you look at the fact that they let a media person into this apartment this quickly, and then you find it conveniently staged with Qurans, you find it conveniently staged with all kinds of stuff, chemicals, an inventory list that shows essentially bomb making components, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the chemistry behind a lot of that. It's not my specialty. I operated commercial nuclear power plants and electrical grids and data centers. Like, I don't know the chemistry behind explosives. But why is it that this apartment is open to the public for media to go through? And why is it just staged conveniently with Qurans? Like, it just feels too easy. Like it's being put on display with intention. Dr. Gold says it's also crazy that the woke stuff wasn't really in my school. Maybe that's because I'm in Indiana. Like I never saw a pride flag. I say, yeah. See, and that's the other thing is I don't know how prevalent that actually is either. In the media, it's constantly portrayed that it's everywhere. But is it? I don't know. Or is it the squeaky wheel that gets the grease? Is it that the conservatives that are fighting it are trying to make it seem like it's everywhere? Or is it that the people that push the agenda want to make it seem like it's ubiquitous to make it more acceptable? It's hard to say which side would benefit more by making people think that it's extremely prevalent. I don't know. But I could definitely see how being in Indiana might impact that. Like I said, I lived in Nebraska for 5 years, 4 years in the southeast tip in Nemaha County, and 1 year in Kearney. So I actually drove to Indiana. Got my vasectomy reversal was done in Indiana. Weird fact. But yeah, guys, I think the Midwest is still a much better place to live. Like I grew up in Southern California. I lived in Nebraska for 5 years. I've now lived in Virginia and West Virginia for a while. Guys, the Midwest, I liked it. I liked it a lot. The values made more sense. The people were nicer. The community was stronger. And yet everybody on the coast seems hell-bent on making everyone think that this flyover country is just a silly place. Like, I liked it. So I hope you like Indiana. I hope you're not in a huge city. But best of luck. But yeah, I miss the Midwest. But hopefully here shortly, I'll be able to have a little more freedom and move about, because I would, if I'm going to be stuck on the East Coast, where I'm at now in West Virginia is probably the place to be. If I'm not going to be stuck on the East Coast, I would much rather be further west, just not back to California. That is a silly, silly place. But like they just left all this stuff here. Like I can't imagine law enforcement came in here, did an actual search warrant, took evidence, and this was all still here. Like it just seems suspicious, I guess. But here we are in the 4th. Again, Kafia just conveniently left to remind you that the Qurans weren't enough. So the excuse is, I didn't take any of my stuff because it's going to be a furnished apartment where I'm going. I would probably still take my clothes, maybe my religious books, unless that's also part of the furnished apartment that he's going to, which I doubt. But I don't know, guys. I hope 2025 really makes a U-turn and things get better, because this is not a fun start to the year. But hey, here we are. Thoughts and prayers for the families involved in the attacks so far, and thoughts and prayers to the country, and hoping that it does not continue. So thank you, Dr. Gold, for hanging out and for commenting. I hope you have a wonderful evening there in Indiana. And sorry, just got given a note. Give me a second. Okay, thank you. But yeah, so thoughts and prayers for the country, everyone. We definitely need a new path. Went over a bunch of different topics. The terror attacks suck. I really hope we definitely need more of a sense of community. We need to get back to American values and America first. This green energy thing ain't it. They're destroying forests and leveling farmland to make solar fields and these other nonsense things. Like, no, nuclear is the answer. And if everyone wants to keep doing everything online, guys, data centers are a fact of life, and they are going to continue to grow in scale and number. So to power those things, you're going to need baseload power. Nuclear is the answer. No matter what form that comes in, we're going to find out. But we'll be back next week. We will have some more stories to go over. Hopefully there's some more positive content. But guys, I hope you all have a wonderful night. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful week. And God bless. Have a great night, everyone. Have a great night, Dr. Gold. Later.